going Bowser, Sephiroth, and Super Saiyan KO Canon, and them best believe that when I'm done, they know that I ain't playing with them anymore. I'm going Kamehameha and shit. Destructiveness, I ain't the one to fuck with.
What's up, my wizards? It's Deb from SBMTG down there on YouTube.com. I like magic, and today I have got not only the first budget deck of the season, but probably the most requested deck so far. This is green-red energy aggro. I've actually been more impressed with this deck than I thought I would be, to be honest with you. Some of the pieces look cute, but some of the pieces are obviously super powerful. Voltaic Brawler and Last New Hellion, both 4-power guys, and Hellion has haste. It's just ridiculous. This deck is really fast, super low to the ground, and it looks to win by turn 4, and it pulls it off. So let me show you how. We'll start with the 1-drop creatures. We're playing 4 copies of Kessig Prowler, 4 copies of Village Messenger, and 4 copies of Scythe Leopard. If there were 1-mana creatures in red or green that produced energy when they came into play, we'd definitely play them. And I know some people might think you play a tune with Aire. I don't think so. It's just really, really slow, and we're looking to be as fast as possible. This deck is lightning fast, and even though none of these have anything to do with energy, we still need really, really good 1-drops, not only because we want a 1-drop on turn 1, but we're playing Reckless Bushwhacker too, so we want a 1-drop on turn 3, and sometimes 2 on turn 4. That happens too. So we have to play a lot of things very, very low to the ground, and in this format, another reason to do that is because we're trying to race things like Radiant Flames and Kozilek's Return, and sure, there's no Languish anymore, but we're actually trying to go underneath 3 mana instead of 4 now in these aggro decks. So in a way, it's even more pressure for us to get in our damage as quickly as possible. And for that reason, we've got to play a lot of aggressive 1-drops. And there's reasons for playing specifically these. You know, Kessig Prowler gets good if we do end up in the late game. We don't want to get there, but if we do, he can get a little bit bigger, and he's a good mana sink. Village Messenger is hard to block once it transforms, and it's not hard to transform. Drop it turn 1, they'll go and usually play a tap land, depending on what you're playing against. Transform your Village Messenger and start pounding in damage. And Scythe Leopard, you know, we live in our first 4 turns in this deck, and we look to play a land every turn, so Scythe Leopard is trying, at least theoretically, to always be a 2-power creature whenever it's our turn. That said, I do see arguments for things like Insolent Neonate or maybe even Bomat Courier, if only because, you know, you can play with either color mana and has haste, guaranteed 1 damage if you go first. And these decks like that, and it could give you some value late, but I want to just play things that can be 2-power. That's what we have here. Moving into the 2-drops, we're definitely going to go ahead and get this out of the way. 4 copies of Voltaic Brawler. Really fantastic card. 2 mana, basically 4-power guys. Usually you have to work a little to get him to 4 power, but this, not too much. You know, during your attack step 1 energy, whatever. Not too much of a price to pay at all. He's almost always a 4 mana or 2 mana 4-power guy. And people have made this argument that he'll trade a lot of the times with smaller creatures on the curve, you know, other aggro decks. We'll be able to trade with this guy. But the other great aggro deck in this format right now is the red-white deck, whether it's vehicles or just zoo or equipments. You know, a lot of people working with red-white aggro. And a lot of those 1-drops are not going to be able to trade with this thing. You know, the Dwarf Tool Shaper Exemplar, they can safely swing on other aggro decks a lot of the time turn 2 or 3. And if we go first, this thing is ridiculous. So, obvious 4 copies here. Finishing off the 2-drops, we're going to play 4 copies of Thriving Grubs and 3 copies of Long Tusk Cub. And obviously these 2 play off of our energy theme, and a lot of the times you won't necessarily be using the energy they give you to make them bigger. Keep Voltaic Brawler going, maybe feed one of them to Aire Hub, or keep Last New Hellion up, you know. A lot of different uses for the energy that these things give you, other than just making them bigger. Remember that. We're going to play 4 Last New Hellion in the deck because hell yeah, we're going to play the Hellion. This thing is ridiculous. On turn 3, swinging in for 4, especially alongside a Voltaic Brawler that you played last turn, and sometimes a 1-drop that you played on the turn before that. You know, sometimes this thing can lead to swinging for 10 on turn 3 really, really easily, and I like that it sticks around for at least 2 attack steps with just the energy it provides you. That's 8 damage over the course of a couple of turns, and turns 3 and 4 are the turns that we're most interested in as far as, you know, dealing huge chunks of damage. So this thing can come down turn 3, and depending on your board, you'll end up swinging for way more damage than you have any right to if they only have 2 lands in play. And to finish off the creatures, we're going to play 4 copies of Reckless Bushwhacker, which is maybe the most important card in the deck. Definitely play all 4 copies of this. Insanely pivotal, crucial card right here, all of them. You know, this can lead to, even on turn 3 sometimes, if you play a 1-drop and then a Reckless Bushwhacker, depending on the board you've set up so far, you can swing for anywhere between like 10 and 13 or 14 on turn 3, which is just crazy, you know. As long as we win first, we're going way up underneath Radiant Flames or Kozilek's Return. At that point, they only have 2 lands out, and we're swinging for more than half of their life total with a Reckless Bushwhacker on turn 3. And the rest of the team, too, on turn 3. That's really good. And on turn 4, we have plenty of ways to deal 20 or more even damage with this. And I'll take you through a turn sequence or two a little bit later in the video. But it is in no way hard to set up ridiculous alpha strikes on turn 4 with this thing. The deck just does it naturally. Let's talk about some spells, though. We're going to play 4 copies of Galvanic Bombardment and 2 copies of Harness Lightning, which isn't as important as I would have thought. You know, I could see a case for a 3 of Lightning, but I'm not sure about a 4 of. 2 mana in this deck is actually a lot more than we want to spend when we're trying to do other stuff on our turn, and we're almost never going to play the card, you know, reactively. You know, we're not going to play it on our opponent's turn or anything. So just Harness Lightning, not great, although sometimes it's good because you will kill a smaller guy with it and hold over an energy or 2 from it. And that's when the card shines the most. But Galvanic Bombardment is the most important removal piece for the deck because instant speed is great. And, you know, just a 1 of, you know, the first time you play it, it can kill their, you know, 1 or 2 drop. And then it only gets better as you move through the game. You know, you don't want to cast more than a couple of these in a game because that means the game has gone on longer than you want it to. But just in the first few turns, this shines because we can play it alongside other cards, and it works very, very well with Reckless Bushwhacker. Clear out a blocker, play your Reckless Bushwhacker, and smash in. So, fantastic card Galvanic Bombardment is. To finish off the main deck here, we're going to play 2 copies of Built to Smash. I just had a couple of main deck slots left, and there are different things that you could do with them, but I devoted them to Built to Smash. I really like the way this card works, although it does have no synergy with Reckless Bushwhacker. You know, it only works on attacking creatures, and so by the time you can cast a Built to Smash, you can't cast a Reckless Bushwhacker and buff your whole team in attack or anything. So there is a problem with the synergy there. But I do think it's worth the 2 slots because it's very easy to just throw in 3 extra damage for 1 mana on a guy that went unblocked. And sometimes, you know, turn 4 you'll play a 1-drop Reckless Bushwhacker and have 1 mana left over to play a Built to Smash on whatever goes unblocked. So still an important card, but I don't know that the deck has enough slots to support a playset. Here are the lands in the deck right here. There's 21 of them, and we are playing some duels. So if you don't have the money or just the duels laying around to play these, you can definitely just play basics instead, but I suggest upping the land count by 1 if you do this. You know, you're sacrificing some of the consistency, and you want to have that extra land drop. So cut like a Built to Smash, or maybe a Harness Lightning, throw another Mountain or Forest in there. That would be my advice. But Aether Hub, keep all 4 copies of that all day. Pivotal, important card, can either make the mana, fix your mana for you, or can just give you an extra energy counter too. So that's really good. So definitely play all the Aether Hubs. Here's the sideboard right here, and there's Bristling Hydra. I'm sure people in the comments are probably going to be like, where's Bristling Hydra? But here he is, right there. And we're going to play him against removal, heavy decks and stuff, and he can also pay 3 energy and go over Radiant Flames, which is kind of good too. The Hexproof won't help him, but he'll get +1/+1, a counter. So that's not bad. I do like the card, but I don't think our curve is high enough to play him in the main. Although once we go against decks where we think the game may be dragged out because they're playing a lot of removal, things like that, then he's not bad because he can be a pain in the neck for control decks to actually remove once and for all. So, big fan of the Hydra, but I'm only going to play him in the sideboard here. Everything else is relatively self-explanatory, although I guess Larger Than Life isn't. I'm also going to play it against control because it can be, you know, a cheap, almost a second copy, you know, more copies of Reckless Bushwhacker in some cases on turns 2 and 3. Just a big, huge spread of damage against the naked board is always good. Everything else, though, I mean, obviously, Magmatic Chasm, excuse me, against other aggro decks, not bad. Plummet against things with flying, especially Spell Queller and Avacyn and stuff like that. So everything else self-explanatory, but I did want to explain Bristling Hydra. Let me just show you a couple of turn sequences before I get to the power rankings here, just to show you what the deck's capable of and how fast it actually is when it wants to be. I mean, we're playing 4 of all but 1 of our creatures, so it's really consistent in its game plan. So let's tell you, turn 1, let's just play Forest and a Kessig Prowler. Let's do that. Turn 2, we'll play a Mountain and a Voltaic Brawler. We'll swing for 2 with our Kessig Prowler. Turn 3, we'll play a Scythe Leopard, then we'll play a Mountain, then we'll play Reckless Bushwhacker, buff our whole team, and in this case we can swing for 13 on turn 3, and if we were able to swing successfully with Prowler on turn 2, then we've dealt 15 damage. They'll untap, if we went first, they'll untap with 2 lands on their side of the battlefield, and they'll be at 5 life, and that is not a hard thing to pull off. But let's look at sort of the nut draw here, you know. Turn 1, let's say we play Mountain and then Village Messenger. Go ahead and swing for 1. Now we say go, they play a tap land, we transform our Village Messenger. Turn 2, we'll play a Forest and a Voltaic Brawler. And then we'll swing for 2 with the Village Messenger. Turn 3, we'll play a Cinderglade and then a Hellion, a Laughing Hellion. At this point, we can swing for 10 damage. Now turn 4, the pivotal turn here, we'll play a Scythe Leopard, and then we'll play a Mountain, that buffs our Scythe Leopard, and then we'll play, say, a Prowler, a Casted Prowler, into Reckless Bushwhacker. And on turn 4, we're swinging for 21 damage. And we've done over 30 damage by turn 4 in this turn sequence. So even if a creature didn't go through for combat damage, we'll still be able to kill them pretty easily. So, and this looks like Christmas Land. It will take 10 out of the 11 or 12 cards that you've drawn up to this point. So it is kind of hard to get, but it's not impossible either, at all. Because again, we're playing 4 of every single one of the cards in this example. See, pretty freaking fast deck, and it's real. Like, turn 3 and 4 plays like that will happen, you know. 2 2-drop or 2 1-drops and a Reckless Bushwhacker on turn 4 is ridiculous. And even if you just play a 2-drop and Reckless Bushwhacker turn 4, you're still swinging for like 17 to 19 damage in a lot of situations. So, like, easily can win by turn 4, no sweat. So let's look at the power rankings with all that in mind. It tops out at about 61 here, you know, extremely fast, very offense focused, but it doesn't really have much more going for it than that, although the synergy score is above average because it has the energy theme, you know. So we've got pretty good scores for a deck that's only going to cost us, get this, $35, and that's with the sideboard and the dual lands included. You know, if you don't have the dual lands, go ahead and pick them up and play this. You know, it only costs you like an extra 10, 15 bucks. You know, that's a good way to look at it. Just buy the dual lands, and for an extra 10 or 15 bucks, you get a whole deck. You know, not bad at all. And it's a very, very fast deck that could be kind of competitive at an F&M, I'm pretty sure. Because, again, in some of these turn sequences, even if they remove 1 or 2 of your creatures, you're still able to get the win by turn 4. So, not bad at all. Try it out on X-Mage and let me know how you feel, because this is, I think, one of the better budget decks that we've made in a long time. Again, I was just really, really impressed by this deck. Just, I guess, much more so than I thought it was going to be. Obviously, again, Brawler and Hellion are insane cards, but I wasn't sure about the shell you could build around it. Turns out if you just go as low to the floor as you possibly can, you can win pretty easily. That being said, I will mention this one more time. In this format, we're going to be trying to play up against either Radiant Flames or Kozilek's Return in a few different matchups, and those cards are not fun to play against for this deck. So play smart against red, hold some stuff in your hand, and don't just overextend your board, because you will get hit with something. So, and it can happen pretty early. So just pro tip, don't overextend against red. That's all. That's all we got for now. Let me know in the comments how you felt about this one, you know. How can we alter it aside from what I've already mentioned in this video so far? Because this deck is really fast and like it's super budget, and I'm not really sure what I would do to it to up the budget. You know, maybe Arlen Core, but that seems way too high up on the curve for something that wants to win so early. So I'm not even sure about that. You know, again, I was saying earlier, vehicles may be the answer, but I'm not even sure about that either. So, like, there's a lot of discussion to be had based around aggro right now. So let me know how you feel about all that. But what are we doing next time, though? That's always important. Next thing I'm going to do is the top 10 upcoming decks that we're going to be doing on the channel in no particular order. Usually, at the start of a format, I like to go ahead and inform everybody of all the stuff that I'm working on. And there's a lot of neat stuff that I'm really excited about, actually. I'm working on a really budget, like $15 or $20 mono blue energy-based deck that looks really, really, really fun. Like, it looks like it might actually be a winning deck, too, so I'm excited about that. Plus, also, Jeskai, I'm excited about that. There's also the Kaladesh Eggs deck that looks to win with Aetherflux Reservoir. Like, there's a lot of really neat stuff that I want to look into right now, so let me know what you're excited about seeing. Any suggestions you want to throw my way, I'm always open to them. And I will see you guys later. If you enjoyed the content, like, share, and then sub for more of the decks that are coming, because that's pretty much going to be our content for the next few weeks here. I'm Deb from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.